For me, there are key elements that make for the perfect taco. The mixture of salty and sweet with a little bit of fresh, and of course, a dash of oil cooked on the tortilla, and then of course, cheesy. Gotta have the cheese. Welcome, welcome. Ziggy1X here with another NieR reincarnation video. And if you like tacos, go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure that there will be another time that I talk about how much I absolutely love tacos. And if you all like tacos, well, we'll get along just fine. Let's go ahead and do a deep dive into this anniversary fight 2, because boy oh boy, is it a doozy. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off by saying that this fight for me was way more difficult than the first one. And the reason why is because I got very comfortable with doing the turtle routine. And this fight for me, I just could not make it work with the turtle. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here. Look at my loadout. Look at A2. I want you to take a look at her attack and her crit damage. We have high attack, 25,000 attack, and we also have nearly 260% crit damage. You will also notice that she's using, that companion by the way is awesome. That's a handout companion, 40% heal for the whole party. The weapon, you'll notice that all of my characters are using offhand weapons. And the reason for this is because you've got to build their secondary weapon abilities in the first stage of the fight, so that when you go into the second stage, you can just roll into the attacks. So both A2 and Noelle, very similar attack and crit damage across the board. Rion's not built for attack though, but look at this passive here. All allies attack up by 20%. Very nice. And then we've got this guy right here. It drops the enemy's attack, but more importantly, it adds a pursuit bonus to the other attackers. So what Rion is doing as a support character is and also boosts the whole party's HP, but what he's doing as a support character, he's giving us a spear here too. That's great, okay? So we've got a water boon for the whole party. He's boosting our attack, and then he's boosting our pursuit buff. So that's it. And actually, the first time I cleared this fight, the reason why we're not watching my first clear is because I forgot to use my heal companion. I forgot that I actually slotted a heal companion in there. And I actually didn't optimize A2 with a two-handed sword. I still had her with Lavania's gear because I was trying this with Lavania at first. Let's take a look at this first round though. You'll see what I'm talking about with the off affinity weapons. Single attacks. This is really important. And then you want to kind of I kill the first enemy so that I'm not taking too much incoming damage. But then I'm kind of switching the targets around a little bit, you'll notice. Rion, I have fire off the provoke ability from the spear because I want him taking more damage. I actually don't want A2 taking very much damage because she has a little bit of, I believe she has bold vigor from the spear that she's using. So now you'll see my companion is fully charged up and ready to go leading into the second fight. So let's fire off that companion, fire off the liquid boon, fire off Rion, and then fire off everybody else's abilities. And what you'll see here, this is a trick, this is a strategy. There's two ways to do this fight, and I'll get into it after the fight is over. But you'll see here, Rion boosts us up, A2 goes in, boom, and then Noelle goes in for the kill. But this isn't until after he hits us once. Now you'll notice that first attack that the enemy does, it doesn't apply the poison. It's only after the second attack that he applies the poison. So if you can still squeak in your attacks and kill him before he does his second attack, which is the one that applies that really nasty poison that sticks around for a long time, that poison has a twofold negative bonus. And by the way, I use these last two guys, I leave them standing so that I can heal with that first companion and so that I can charge up my weapon abilities again. So that rolling it over into the boss, you'll see what happens here. Boom, Rion, boom, Noelle, boom, A2. And I chain it up and just watch what happens here. It's a thing of beauty. Look at that. All right, A2, fire off that character ability. Bam. Okay, so that enemy got one attack in from that whole fight. So there's two ways to do this fight. And I will go ahead and this is kind of the bonus footage because I got I got the Mama medal, so I went ahead and went into the shop. And just to give you a little forewarning of what's going to happen here, I got my last ticket from the 1.5 anniversary Mama shop, and I didn't get anything for it, so spoiler alert. So there's two ways to do this, and I tried both ways. This one was more successful for me because I had the memoirs and the equipment to support it. The two ways are that you can go in and you can slow roll it a little bit, but you need a cleanse ability, because what happens is, and more preferably on a weapon, because what happens is the enemy keeps applying the poison to you every volley of attacks that it does in wave 2. And so that becomes problematic because he's applying the poison effect to you more frequently than your bloody captive can heal that effect. The other problem that it poses for you in wave 3 is that if your characters are poisoned going into wave 3, they do significantly less damage to the boss. This is a big problem because the boss you want to burst down, because once he starts basically going berserk, he starts hitting a lot. And so you want to avoid that if possible. So there's two ways to do this. You can go a much slower turtle route, but this fight for me just wasn't as conducive to that as the first fight was. I tried it multiple times and I just got frustrated because I just couldn't, and I did it with the same way I did the last one. I did it with 2 healers, but I still just couldn't stay ahead of that poison effect. And I couldn't stay ahead of just how often the second wave enemy was attacking me. And so it just became more important for me to just do that burst damage. And I did start trying with Lavania first, EX Lavania, and then I actually went to Fractured Abyssal Mirror Lavania, and he did well, but his ability cooldown was getting in the way. The ability cooldowns need to be a little bit faster. And so then I thought, wait a minute, what is one of my hardest hitters in my roster? It's A2, because I have her at Awakening level 4, and she's got full stats, and she blows things up. She still isn't quite as good of an attacker as Noelle, in my opinion. Noelle just offers more, but that combination of Noelle and A2, you'll notice here that when she gets to the boss, after that companion heals her up in the end of this wave, I slowed this way down so that you can just see the mechanics. So if you just want to mute me and shut me up, just watch how the fight progresses. I slowed this way down again. You will notice here again, this is the same fight. I just took the same footage, clipped it, slowed it down. It interrupts my chain, but that still doesn't stop Noelle from blowing it up. And I start a new chain with the provoke ability, which is good because now Rion is taking the damage off of my main attackers. So you want A2 to have close to full health if you're going to use this strategy, if you're going to use Noelle's weapon, because the weapon has a Bold Vigor ability on it, that if her HP is above 70%, she's doing up to 40% more damage. That is significant. And I did originally have the gun on A2, but I had the spear on Noelle, and that proved to be a little bit RNG intensive for me. Too much so to where I couldn't consistently clear it. This I can clear every time. And the reason why is because I have off affinity weapons on each of my characters, which means wave 1, they've got plenty of time to charge up. They've got plenty of time, just like you see here, to load up all of their abilities, load up the companion. So right when I roll into wave 2, I could do this fight over and over and over and over again and win it every time doing this because of the consistency. There's very, very little RNG in this, the way I have this here. And the issue that I was having with it before was there was way too much RNG in wave 1. And by allowing the provoke ability to fire off from Rion's spear to direct a little bit of the attention towards himself and going from there and allowing that heal, that clutch heal to kick in right after I kill the second wave boss, and then just let my abilities recharge on the trash in the second wave, I roll right into wave 3, beat it every time, no problem. So that would be what I have to say about this fight. is if you are going to go the damage route, and this was something I had to tweak, and what I noticed is that I had to have at least 25,000 attack on both my characters. The reason why that was so important for me was because I'm not using a water boost companion. I'm not using the water pod. That gives me a 18% increased damage for water attacks. That's a nice little bonus, but what I found to be more important is that heal immediately after I beat the second wave boss. Because if I can top off my characters, there's nothing that the third wave boss can do to kill me. Again, this fight, I can run this 100 times and I beat it 99 times this way. So the big things to make sure that you do on your two main attackers, if you are going to do it this way, and I think that this is a very viable way of doing it for a lot of people. It does depend on, though, having those EX weapons, 2 EX water weapons. It doesn't have to be specifically Yuri's weapon or anything like that. I think you could probably even swing it with Argo's weapon, but you should have at least, if you've got also Abyssal Mirror Demios, his gun is amazing. So if you've got that gun, that is a wonderful water weapon. But outside of these weapons, I don't have Demios. And outside of these weapons that you saw in my group here, I don't have a whole lot of water weapons. My water team is by far my weakest element. But because I just farmed out Yuri and I basically just slapped her out real quickly, got her as soon as she launched, that gun has served me really well. And as much as I love Yuri, the gun is the real prize. For challenges like this, moving forward, and for towers and everything else, these water weapons, these EX water weapons, I would say that, just on a side note, a bit of a derailing of the whole conversation, I would look at the elements in your grouping that are the weakest, and then I would actually go for those element specific character weapons, those costume weapons from the EX roster that flush out your roster a little bit better. That's the reason why I originally went for EX Noelle. It was because I needed better water weapons. So I went for her, and then I knew that we had a new EX character coming down very soon, and so I waited, and I was very, very glad to see that it was a water weapon. So play it slow, plan it out. This does take a little bit of preparation. The memoirs aren't as important. I didn't actually do anything specific with the memoirs except for on Rion's. His was basically the HP up 10% set, but that could have been anything really. That really could have been anything. It could have even been the attack up for the first 60 seconds of the fight. I think that's what it is. Anyways, there's a few in there that you can use, but the memoir sets were not as important. The stats were, though, that I noticed. I didn't even really use any boon weapons, any elemental boon weapons. I did try it with that, but it was a little inconsistent because some of those weapons had things like pursuit attached to them, and had things like bold vigor attached to them. And so if my HP fell below a certain point, they did less damage. But regardless, you'll notice that going into the third fight, A2 had a ton of HP, and she was actually capped on HP, and she was able to do max damage from the Noelle spear that I equipped her with. Worked out beautifully for her. So I hope this anatomy of the Japanese 1.5 year anniversary fight, this breakdown, I hope this helps you out a little bit in at least understanding the mechanics of the fight. TLDR, Wave 1, take it slow. My suggestion is to use off affinity weapons on each of your characters so they don't do their multi-character attacks. Let them do one attack at a time. Kill the first enemy, because if you have 3 incoming attacks, it's going to wear you down pretty quickly. So kill at least one enemy, and then let your other units just kind of play and go back and forth between the other 2 enemies. Get into Wave 2. Fire off that companion, because if you did it right, the companion should be ready to go immediately going into Wave 2. Fire off that target, the main boss, fire off the companion, fire off Rion's first ability on the spear to boost all the water damage, do the 2 on Noelle, and then Rion should be ready to go with his character ability. Fire it up. That gives the pursuit buff. A2 is ready to go with her abilities, and the rest is a cakewalk. Just don't use, if you're using A2, don't use her character ability. Don't get too hot to trot and jump the gun, because Noelle was able to finish the boss off with her character ability. And so I was able to just sit there and wait on A2's character ability, so that when wave 3 started, I could finish off the wave 3 boss with A2's character ability. So that would be it. I hope you guys enjoyed my tacos that I made the other night. They were delicious, and I'm sure looking at them made you want tacos. And if it made you want tacos, again, like and subscribe. More to come. We're only 2 days out from the Japanese anniversary announcements, and depending on how those go is depending on if I'm actually going to summon on Banner 3 to hopefully get my Yuletide assassin, who I'd really love. And by the way, in this case, she would have done even better work than Rion. She's an amazing support character, so this is me missing out over here. Anyways, hope you all are having a great night, and I hope you're enjoying this new challenging content. When you understand the anatomy of those fights, it makes it much more manageable. My first couple tries, again, felt much too much like this was random chance. And the initial strategies that I was throwing together, basically, you could win it, but it just wasn't consistent. This that I showed you right here, if you could meet those stats that I showed you, if you have similar to the type of equipment that I showed you, you can do this fight easy. So I hope this helps. Peace out, y'all. Have a good night. Bye.